Good day, everyone. I'm happy to greet you in the media center of Ukrainian Forum. Olga Tmanova is with you, and today we'll talk traditionally about the security and defense sphere, namely about the front for our Russian-Ukrainian war. And today, for you, the speakers and representatives of almost all the spheres of defense security will speak MOD of Ukraine, Armed Forces of Ukraine, National Guard, and National Police. And I would like to give the floor to the first speaker, Deputy of the Minister of Defense, Hanna Maliar. Please, the floor is yours. Good day, everyone. I'm happy to greet you all on our briefing. I would like to point your attention to our sequence. It's my notes. You know, the situation is serious. And traditionally, we will report to you publicly about our activity and inform you about the most important news over this week. 2,880 hours. That's 120 days of heroism, courage of our nation in this great war for freedom against Russia. Today is 120th day of full-scale invasion of Russia to Ukraine. And dimension of days, hours, and seconds, and the scale of the millennia of history is just blink. But we remember and will always remember every second of this 120 days that right now are passing since 24th of February. In the world scale, this is really a great war, and the scale and amount of human resource and weapons. Over this time, we, together with you, we're happy for victories, for freeing Kyiv, Chernihiv, and Sumy regions, improving the operative location of our troops in Kharkiv and Mykolaiv region. We jointly experienced tragedies of losses. Each last name is a notch on the heart of our nation. We will not forget everyone who devote their lives for our independence. The security situation around Ukraine is still difficult. Russian Federation for the fourth month continues a full-scale invasion to our state, and the main strategic, political and economical goals of Russia to our state remain the same. Analysis of combat actions since the from the intelligence of Ukrainian confirms that Moscow conducts the attrition war on Ukraine. In the close future, Russian troops will try to capture Severodonetsk and Lysychansk because they need the cause to announce that they have fulfilled the task regarding gaining control over Luhansk and Donetsk regions or reaching the geographical borders of those regions. And further, the enemy plans to concentrate the efforts into capturing the biggest cities of Donetsk, namely Kramatorsk and Slavyansk, biggest cities of Donetsk region. Armed forces of Ukraine are prepared for any development of events, and they will speak about that also. In the Black Sea, the enemy continues to conduct means of sea blockade of Ukrainian ports, firstly Odessa and Mykolaiv ports. And the result of that, Ukraine has no opportunity to conduct trade via sea with other states. And firstly, it is related to exports of agricultural products. The danger still remains of offense of the enemy from Belarusian border. At the same time, Russian invaders use active means to fastening the so-called integration of temporarily occupied territories into economical and social space of Russian Federation. Currently, Russian Federation continues rudely and cynically to violate international law. In particular, trying to integrate temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine to Russian space. Russia today deploys the points of issuing passports of Russia Federation because they want to increase the amount of citizens of Russian Federation. Presses on people who just happen to be on the occupied territory. They press on them to receive those passports. And the highest pressure is on people who work on captured enterprises. Russia forces Ukrainians that stay on occupied territories to cooperate with them. In particular, this is related to the educational sphere. And today, as of today, the majority of our people, they resist. But Russia, on the temporary occupied territories, they suppress active protests of our people. Russia attempts to organize passenger transportation to the temporary occupied territory of Crimea from captured territories of Kherson region. Russia continues illegally to move Ukrainian cultural values, valuable items. Also, they move products of captured enterprises and also Ukrainian grain. Also, Russia conducts informational campaigns not only on the temporary occupied territories, but also in many countries of the world, aimed at preventing Ukraine to receive military aid. Currently, Russia tries to break and besmirch the reputation of Ukraine as a reliable partner, tries to find any arguments possible to convince the Western world that Ukraine does not need military aid. Regarding provision for armed forces, MOD works according to the priorities that I have voiced for many times. The constraints on providing stable and rhythmical supplies that would allow the government of armed forces to plan the operations. Over the week, we work on weekly basis. We, by weekly basis, speak about supplies for the most important items. So over the week, since 15th of June to 22nd of June, for the detachments of armed forces of Ukraine, we supplied over 17,000 of armed vests, bulletproof vests, over 17,000 of helmets, over 18,000 of pairs of footwear, and over 8,000 of uniform. We are preparing for winter, and today, on the weekly basis, we supply winter uniform with the clothes. This week, we supplied over 2,000 of jackets. In the close future, we expect means of individual protection, 2,000 of bulletproof vests, and 4,000 of helmets. There are the volumes that are already in Ukraine, or unloaded by the suppliers, or loaded by the suppliers, or in transit to Ukraine. Apart, what is in the storages, we will not speak about because there is a working process ongoing. They're checking the documents, they're checking the quality, and just during yesterday, we counted 5,300 bulletproof vests. Not to overload you with info, we don't announce information about the other items. There are many. It's not only bulletproof vests, helmets, or footwear. It's also the tents and showers, field showers, up to glasses. MOD conducts centralized supplies to the armed forces, and then the management of armed forces, according to the priorities, they divide them. Now, traditionally, we inform about the financing of armed forces that are conducted by the MOD is the same in a planned manner. As I was saying previously, the MOD financed to the detachments the payments and salaries over 60 billion of hryvnia, and almost 26 billion out of them there are combat money. Right now, that money are coming from the military detachments to the service personnel. I don't announce the exact amounts for yesterday because the treasury, in the real time, they're transferring the money as we speak. We're controlling and conducting monitoring of that payments. We receive info directly from our service people yesterday during the day, and today in the morning we received signals from different regions about finance being received by service people. And I want to say and ensure that if you still have not received the payments, please don't worry. As we speak, they actively transfer the money. Money's on the way. You'll receive it all. You'll receive it timely. We regularly inform you about the victories of MOD on the legal front. We took the course to return illegally seized property of MOD, of returning lands that for many years were seized illegally from MOD. And now, with the help of our legal team, we won the courts. And jointly with the executive service, we physically have returned 25 plots of land with a total surface of over 3,500 of hectares in Odessa region. That land is located in Belgorod's district. It costs over 107 million hryvnia. Those are land of military field that were illegally seized by the village council. Now those lands are physically returned under management of MOD. And for media, I would like to emphasize that this happened an implementation of 3 court decisions that we passed 3 courts of Odessa region, physically, jointly with the executive service according to Act of Transfer. We ensured return of those 25 plots of land, and they are located in Bograd's region of district of Odessa region. And traditionally, we're speaking about uneasy work of medical forces of Ukraine. Each day, our medics, military medics, and their fight for life and health of our service people. If you imagine their work in big, white, cozy rooms, it's not so. They work in critical field conditions. For instance, last week during a combat, one of the service people was wounded in the right leg, and it was critically important to provide timely aid so the leg would not be amputated. Due to great organization of work of medical personnel and organized work of our medics, in the first minutes after wound, the military surgeon, in the field conditions, successfully conducted operation, surgery, stopped the bleeding, and ensured that our service person or soldier will not lose the leg. After that surgery, the service person was sent to the closest military hospital and will be treated and undergo rehabilitation. Thank you. Thank you. More in detail about situation, Brigadier General of Armed Forces, Oleksii Hromov. Good day. The enemy continues the full-scale aggression against our state. The main efforts continues to focus on the assault and defense in the east of our country. In Volynsk, Zhytomyr, and other directions. There are no signs of offensive groups of enemy. And Belarus groups, they fulfill tasks on enforcing the state border on a rotation basis. Also, we found that in the territory of Belarus, there is special forces of Russian forces and private military companies. It could be for preparing sabotage groups, possibly. I would like to emphasize that Belarus continues providing resources to help Russia in aggression against our country. Also, according to data that we have, explained as the military drills, and right now they service Russian equipment and take equipment from their Belarusian equipment from storage. The enemy has a lot of losses in equipment, and this equipment is better stored in Belarus. We cannot exclude that our neighbor Belarus will provide military equipment for Russia and this equipment might be moved to Donetsk or to Kherson direction to enforce the Russian enemy. Also, we found that on the territory of ex-Zabrovka aerodrome, Homel region, in Chernihiv direction, Belarus was conducting means to build military infrastructure. We cannot exclude that in the framework of cooperation, they could provide that for aggressor to attack our state border. There is still a threat of use of territory and airspace of Belarus for missile strikes, movement of saboteur groups to our territory on the path of logistic supplies of our groups. For a large-scale invasion, there is no threat currently because they don't have enough troops there to do that. But they can continue demonstration actions to bind and to prevent moving our troops to other direction. Their main task is to distract our troops in northern and Poliski direction to prevent our troops to dislocate. In Chernihiv direction, to demonstrate presence and bind our troops and prevent them from relocation. In Bryansk and Kursk direction, they maintain up to 3 battalion tactical groups. Systematically, they conduct artillery shelling of our defense troops. In Kharkiv direction, they put main efforts into reconnaissance and combat to preventing defense of Ukraine from reaching the state border and from preventing the offensive actions in the direction of Donetsk region. They continue shelling, bombing our detachments and local infrastructure. On Slavyansk direction, the main efforts of the enemy are on holding ground, active defense, attempts to offensive action, to create good conditions for offense, and keep firing at our troops with artillery and MLRS. The direction of Severodonetsk is the most active. The situation is difficult. The defense and do everything possible and impossible. For attrition actions, they conduct maneuver defense. The enemy tries to capture Severodonetsk fully, hold the captured positions, conduct systematic fire with tanks, mortar, aviation, and artillery. Tries to offend in direction of Milnodili and Lysychansk, attempting to surround our forces at Lysychansk. Right now, all the military actions are acting with a single plan, in accordance with a single plan, and the coordination between detachments of neighboring military groups are established, and there is cooperation, and there is fire support of our action. In Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Pavlovska direction, the enemy conducts systematic bombing of our troops with all the range of weapons. In Zaporizhzhia direction, the enemy trying to bind the defense forces and moving them to other directions, conducts combat actions, and makes fire impact. In Kursk, Mykolaiv, Kherson actions, the enemy does not conduct active, means they try to hold ground and makes fire impact with a full range across the whole line of contact. In Bessarabsky, the operation region, they're not forming, we didn't find any forming of offense groups. The detachments of Russian service, they operate in force regime, they stay in barracks and do not dislocate. Black Sea and Azov operative region, the main ship there assist beneficial operative regime and block civil navigation in northern western part of Black Sea. And currently they have 5 carriers of high precision weapons, with the total amounts of 40 up to 40 missiles. And the enemy continues focusing attention on the reconnaissance of critical infrastructure and so-called centers of decision-making. They could use that either for reconnaissance or for planning to strike it. On the background of missile strikes, they also use saboteur groups to destabilize the situation, conduct sabotage, correcting the strikes, and gathering information about location and relocation of military groups, and psychological pressure on civilians. According to information of Secret Service of Ukraine, the agents of there's still agents of enemy. They conduct sabotage in the west. They try to sabotage the delivery of aid from Western partners. And in the central parts, they try to define the coordinates of military objects and critical infrastructure objects to conduct avia and missile strikes. Kyiv administration informs that after combat near the capital, the activity of saboteurs decreased. Yes, that is true. A certain amount of saboteurs was destroyed, but we cannot exclude that part of saboteurs are in this sleeping mode and expecting new tasks from Moscow. In Kyiv, they detect suspected people that could be accomplices of sabotage. According to data that we received during last week, detained 2 Ukrainian citizens that on the cell phones they found photos of rail infrastructure of Kyiv. Shevchenkov district, the patrol police found a female with photos of roadblocks, and communication with the occupied territories of Ukraine. In Dniprovsky region, detained the male that was an accomplice of illegal bans on occupied territories. In Abalon district, male detained that had photo of location of military equipment and positions of armed forces of Ukraine and other defense forces. Also found that this male called to Russian operators. Thus, evaluating the current situation, we can say that higher political management of Russian Federation did not change the strategic goal, that is reaching full control over territory of Ukraine by all means. The main military targets of Russian Federation are encircling the Ukrainian forces in the west of Donbass and capturing Donbass and Donetsk and Lugansk region, and having the land corridor from Donbass to Crimea. The enemy will continue fire strikes, missile strikes of our troops across all our contact line to prevent movement of our troops to the east of our position and to win time to enforce the depleted forces. Also, will continue moving the military. They'll try to prevent us from moving the military aid. This will be a priority for them. I would like to ensure once more that the defenders of Ukraine they act according to the single plan of our management, believe in the armed forces of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, Oleksii, Nadtochyi, head of the Operative Administration, National Guard of Ukraine. Good day, dear guests. Role on the latest of National Guards in repulsing military aggression for today, 23rd of June 2022. National Guard of Ukraine continues fulfilling military and especially tasks. The framework of group of military of Ukraine, the personnel resists the offensive of enemy in districts of Severodonetsk with detachments of National Guard of Ukraine. Main task of National Guards has no special changes. Of our main tasks, we have the same. Some positive examples of statistical data over the week. Aviation base of National Guard of Ukraine provided strike of enemy by 14 helicopter flights, transport by 2 helicopter strikes, UAVs 41, recon intelligence detect 363 targets of enemy, posts 108, UAVs 987, electronic reconnaissance of 108. Engineer and EOD groups conduct demining the Kyiv region. Since the start of operation, we cleaned almost 114 hectares of territory and found and destroyed over 14,000 explosives. The divers continue search and demining the bed of Dnipro River. Over a week, studied 7.5 kilometers. This week, conducted search and rescue and organized rise from the equatorial of Syrsk-Donetsk, Lysychansk of armed vehicle Varta with bodies of 7 deceased Guardians. With territorial defense, the forces of National Guard conduct military tasks, secure the objects appointed by Capture Minister of Ukraine, diplomatical missions and consulates of foreign countries, fight against saboteur groups of the enemy by intelligence, blocking, search and rescue, and counter-saboteur means, in particular in western region of state. Last week, we detained 36 persons. During filtration means 9 were moved to polygraph and 32 people for administrative particle for violating the traffic rules. Ensuring the martial law regime by participation in means provided by the legislation and temporary restriction of rights and freedoms of citizens. Working roadblocks during the week, considering the changes in operative situation in some territories of Kyiv region. The decision was passed regarding addition 6 roadblocks from National Guard of Ukraine. Thus, in all territory and 24/7 regime, the National Guardians conduct special tasks and armed tasks on 176 roadblocks. That allows opportunity to operatively detect offenders, seize weapons, and counter the activities of saboteurs. Also, since 24th of February, only on roadblocks of National Guard, Guardians detained and moved to security service over 318 persons that are suspects to accomplices to saboteur groups, over 13,000 civilians for administrative and criminal offense, seized 91 items of firearms, over 5,000 of ammo, 155 cold weapons, 3 grenade throwers, 54 grenades, 10 kilos of explosives, 3 anti-tank mines, and 6 artillery ammos. Our service people give example as courage not only in the battlefield. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, over 700 Guardians that fulfill tax on supporting a legal regime of martial law in the west of the country, donated over 300 liters of blood for wounded brothers and sisters in arms and citizens of Ukraine. One of the main tasks of medical service is medical treatment of our service people that were wounded and had concussions. A lot of work is conducted by our medics and doctors. An international organization and countries that National Guard has relations with assists in medical treatment and rehabilitation of our personnel. Right now, medical treatment abroad, in particular in Germany, is done for 14 service people. All 65 people will be sent for medical treatment in the close future. Due to established cooperation with NGOs, foundations, and institutions of different form of property for National Guard, there was provided a lot of equipment, sanitary vehicles of different class, medical property and means that are used by attachments of National Guard in the combat area. During that week, the Guardians received vehicle of ambulance from volunteers, 600 of first aid kits, bulletproof vests, and 3 quadricycles. All that help is moved to the districts where it's most needed, and that would be of essence during fulfillment of tasks. We thank all who help our protectors. Our personnel does everything possible to defend our state, to defend our citizens, and to repulse the enemy. For courage and heroism, the awards were given to over 2,200 National Guardians of Ukraine, and 16 were announced as Hero of Ukraine. Regretfully, 10 of them after their death. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Oleksii. Oleksii Serhieiev, Head of Department of Organization Analytical Division of National Police of Ukraine. Good day, dear colleagues. National Police of Ukraine continues implementation of means provided by the martial law regime and other practical functions stipulated by the legislation. In particular, during the last period, they organized political means to countering persons that are accomplices with collaboration, sabotage, and other activity related to cooperation with the enemy. The investigator of police documented 95% of all the war crimes that are conducted by Russian military and their accomplices in Ukraine, and other crimes that are related to military aggression. Implement comprehensive means in search and rescue of missing people, also by means of organization of works of call center. Also, we continue providing help for civilians on evacuation and also accompanying the strategic cargoes. To detect and work on persons that could be accomplices to the enemy, since 26th of May last year, we conduct operative prophylactic work in Ukraine. During that time, police personnel processed over 56,000 of people, and as a result of checks, over 2,500 were moved to the defense security service Ukraine, and 146 were detained, and 37 were incarcerated. Jointly with Secret Service Ukraine, we searched 5 people that were accomplices of illegal handling of arms, detained 29 AKs, trotil, explosive, 5 grenades, and explosive and grenade throwers. On 19th of June in Kovel region, during search of Belarusian citizen, we have found trotil explosive, gunpowder, topographic map, silencer, firearms, and symbols with propaganda of crime regime. We also seized 144 items of firearms, 90 grenades, 135 kilos of explosives, etc. On 22nd of June in the Directorate region, at search of Directorate resident that was support to occupants, we seized grenade 5 2 hunting rifles, ammo, and communist symbols. At the same time, the investigators of National Police, from the start of military aggression, started 19,111 criminal cases for crimes of armed forces of Russian Federation, their accomplices, and other criminal offenses related to martial law. Majority, according to Article 438 of Criminal Code of Ukraine, war crimes and violating the tradition of war. Then 110 offense of against territorial integrity, and 111-1 collaboration. It's 180 crimes. National Police also continuously conducts means aimed at finding the missing people. In particular, during martial law, to the bodies and the police, we received the claims that 20,000 of people were went missing, and almost half of them we found. And research also for 133 underage, and 360 of them were found. Not found, 169 were underage, were missing due to combat. We closely cooperate with information exchange with representatives of authorized on missing persons, National Information Bureau of Integration, Armed Forces, and other institutions. It's important to mention that on 6th of June, the call center started working hotline with 0800 21 21 51 on issues related to search of missing persons, their capturing or military capturing. Please see the information video. Looking for a person that could be missing during combat. Do you know about somebody's burial or death, please? Call their Council Center of National Police, 0800 21 2151. We work 24/7. Regarding call center, we receive over 100 notification every day, and we receive over 7,000 calls, and over 3,000 of them were related to missing persons. I want to say that the identification of missing persons could be issued to police via delivering such information via post, regular post, to the post of 102, to the hotline of National Police that you saw, just right now, or addressing to the territorial bodies of police. Also, we recommend relatives of missing people or capturing people, together with the application to that fact, give biological samples for us to detect the person. In Donetsk and Kharkiv region, Kherson region, and other regions, we assist people to evacuate. With help of police officers, we evacuated over since 9th of June. We help evacuate 9,500 of citizens. It's an address help with regions that are under shelling or people who need help in moving. In Polessk and Luhansk region, jointly with volunteers, regardless of firing from occupants, we evacuated 16 residents of Lysychansk. 3 of them are children. We moved citizens from evacuation spot to safe places. On 10th of June, Dnipropetrovsk police officers from one of Donetsk villages evacuated 10 people. One of them were females and children. Also, police actively is involved with humanitarian aid to citizens, accompanying cargo transfers by local governments to furthest points that are suffer from enemy shelling, and also organization of work of humanitarian points. On 14th of June, police of Donetsk region delivered the batch of humanitarian aid to Vuhledar. On 18th of June, in Kherson region, provided humanitarian aid to the occupied Sokurivka village of the Vorontsovka district. With coordination of police, we transport strategic cargoes also. And then I would like to mention that bodies of National Police, 24/7, they work on ensuring safety and security on all territory of state, countering crime, also organized crime, searching for the occupied territory with registering all the crimes conducted by occupants, working on 502 roadblocks, 24/7 by 1,500 of police officers, demining and fulfilling tasks of military commandments on repulsing the military aggression of Russian Federation. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for info. I give the floor to our speakers for Q&A session. The first question to armed forces. We all saw Zmyny Island, Snake Island. We saw our success there. And some press published even the satellite images. What is the situation now? If you can, please comment. Snake Island. Regarding Snake Island, there's no secret. Was several times by the government and by the armed forces that any territory of our state temporarily occupied will be returned under our control. Currently, armed forces of Ukraine, they use all possible arsenal and means to return this territory under our control. We use the weapons that we have available in our detachments. We managed to worsen the relocation of the enemy. We decrease the amount of relocation of the enemy. Anti-aircraft defense also we lessened of the enemy. We do everything possible, but the best is still to come. Thank you. Thank you. To your colleagues. Ukraine formal a question to Hanna Maliar. You said that Ukraine received just 10% of weapons that it requested. Can you define regarding which countries we have the biggest highest expectation regarding supplies and from where the situation have changed? We discussed all of that so many. Well, that's an obsolete news, really, that you're saying. It all depends on which needs we're discussing. There is needs to stop the enemy, yes. There is needs to return the recently occupied territories, and the other needs us to return all the territories of Ukraine that were temporarily occupied. More than that, the character of war is changing. If February, March, it was one dynamics of war, and the needs were in one way. Now it's we have different needs. It's not a statical figure that will remain the same during the whole tract of the war. Currently, we continue active cooperation with our Western partners. You know what's happening on the international level. There are very pivotal things. And we expect that help. We expect that aid because we see that Western world understands that it's not about Ukraine security. Ukraine actually is the shield of Europe right now. And our defenders, they fight and die not only for Ukraine, but for Russia not to start the aggression against the Western countries, because Russian appetites are bigger than the territory of Ukraine. Can you define which methods Russians use to prevent us from getting those armaments? For numerous times, we were explaining the situation when, out of the best intentions, people voice information about some agreements or plans of armament supplies, out of the best intentions, of course, and then that didn't work via different sabotage of Russia or agents of Russia or other ways. In the start of the full-scale invasion, we had precedents, had cases when contracts were broken or contract concluded, or supplies, according to those during transit, were broken. Therefore, we have to be aware of that, okay? Our community is very difficult to find this balance between this desire to be informed and just necessity to wait until it's implemented and until we can actually officially notify the community. Therefore, we were very reserved on this, okay? Because Russia tries to hinder us in any possible way. In particular, I was saying today that Russians are trying to besmirch our reputation as the reliable partner, and Ukraine is a reliable partner. And the example we were registering that Russia gives information also via affiliated speakers, bloggers, and people who have a lot of subscribers, to which there is trust in Ukraine in particular, and notified some insider info that here they divide weapons in the wrong way, they reuse the weapons in the wrong way, as if. And we made official statements on that. How it's done, how is the control is conducted of our Western partner on use the weapons and supplies of weapons. To be crystal clear, for everybody not to believe notification of Russian agents and Russian propaganda, that the system of control exists, and it's very hard unless we fulfill the obligations on division and use of weapons. They will just not supply us. They will stop supplies. And the systems of control of weapons are conducted in accordance with all the requirements of the EU. And speaking of the United States, and according to the requirements of the United States, because they put the requirements, what we have to fulfill, we have to fulfill it. And we do it. So even if you hear from the speakers that as if they're against Putin and for Ukraine, but they start besmirching our reputation as a reliable partner and consumer of weapons, and would please be aware that it's information sabotage from Russia. So Spilna TV, question to Ms. Hanna Maliar and to Mr. Hromov regarding Severodonetsk. From some sources, we have information, in particular from Svoboda, that there are certain problems with rotation, that personnel is depleted, sometimes even wounded people have to continue fighting. Do you expect a rotation there? And is there enough armaments for service people, for personnel that serves there? Thanks. Last week, for more efficient defense of Severodonetsk, the detachments of Ukraine and other components of defense, they're bind under same management, under the same supervision, formed proper reserves are formed, and regardless that the ways of supplies were damaged, the management found several options on how to provide supplies of garrison, for ammo firstly, and evacuation of wounded. Currently, the situation is such, I don't understand what you mean by rotation. So the personnel has to fulfill tasks 3 days and rotate in the 4th day. How does that work? Right now there's active combat, okay, in Severodonetsk. By personnel, they heroically fight against the occupant. And regarding rotation, currently, I cannot answer the context that you asked me, because if there is some delineation, I will. But and regarding weapon supplies, the service personnel, they are armed. They're supported with artillery, by our artillery, but regretfully, the enemy has fire, has a lot more fire, has upper hand in fire, have more artillery, they have more ammo, but our service personnel, they use maneuvers properly and very skillfully. The situation is difficult, but it's stable. The combat is ongoing. Thank you. More questions, please. Good day. Fatim Vetrov, Corriere della Sera, Italy. Question to Ms. Hanna. Question to Mr. Nadtochyi. Italian weapons. Is it on its way? Or does Ukraine have it? the Italian weapons. Thank you. We have an agreement with our Western partners that they are the first to make the announcements about that. They're the first to make the announcement of that matter. And then we can comment this information somehow. We can disclose it. Why? Because firstly, each country that helps us has their capabilities and they have political positions. And some of the countries desire to do that without accompanying it informationally. As soon as our partners make an announcement, we will be able to make announcements as well. Please, more questions.
Climate Pacific Rex, you mentioned the figure of for UXO clearance of 114 hectares and 14,000 devices cleared. Is that strictly the territorial defense, or those aggregate figures across all organizations? And if you could actually, who's in charge of UXO education? Is that the State Emergency Service currently?
We said that we cleared 1,000 territories. Who can comment? You think about explosives and dangerous items, right? In my speech, I said that detachments of National Guards were engaged with that. The 14,000, that's only detachments of National Guard alone that are involved. Also, we have detachments of Emergency Situation Service that is also responsible for that direction, and they have their all separate figures. And tomorrow we will have a briefing with them. Please come. More questions, please. Viktor Melnikov, CGTN. Please tell us, what is the situation now? Maybe to Oleksii, what is the situation now on the Azot plant in Kyiv, near Lysychansk? And what is with the road of supplies to our group, Siverska, to Lysychansk? Lysychansk, it's okay. It's under periodical fire of the enemy. They can reach and they can create capabilities. Let's create difficulties for supplies regarding combat on those territories. The combat is in action right now. The situation is dynamic and dynamically changing. What details were you asking about? Situation in Azot plant. And here's the combat is ongoing. Our personnel is defending it. So here's and Azot. Yes. Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you all. I would like to thank you, dear journalists, who are helping us to cover the situation, to show truth, and truth about our resistance, and glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes.